This is not a legend. It's not fiction. It's the real story of George Penca, a 30-year-old man who vanished from a church hiking trip in Yosemite National Park, with no witnesses, no sound, and no trace. He was surrounded by friends, the trail was open, the weather was perfect, and yet, in less than a minute, he was gone. In this video, I'll walk you through everything we know about that day, the hike, the search, the theories, and the haunting silence that followed. Because some disappearances don't feel like accidents. They feel impossible.
George Penca wasn't famous. He didn't live an extraordinary life. He was just a good guy. 30 years old, soft-spoken, calm, involved in his church, and well-liked by those who knew him. In June of 2011, George joined a church retreat to Yosemite National Park, one of the most beautiful and visited parks in America. Mountains, waterfalls, and trails that wind through silence and time. George's group had about a dozen people, mostly young adults and church leaders. They had come for peace, reflection, and nature. That weekend, they laughed together, ate together, and on June 17th, they set out on a day hike to explore Hetch Hetchy Reservoir, a spot known for breathtaking views and relatively easy trails. Everything felt normal. But that's the thing about these stories. They always do until they don't.
The group hiked toward Wapama Falls, a well-traveled trail with bridges and overlooks. It's scenic, not remote. Families take that path all the time. The sun was out, no fog, no storm. They were chatting, taking pictures, pausing for water. Then they took a short break before turning around. Some sat, some wandered a bit off trail, nothing far. When it was time to regroup and head back, someone said, "Where's George?" Just like that, he was no longer with them. They assumed he'd gone ahead, but a few steps forward, and he wasn't there. They turned back, called his name. Silence. The kind of silence that gets under your skin.
The group searched in both directions. They walked the path several times, asked other hikers, but nobody had seen a man walking alone. Nobody had passed someone matching George's description. And this wasn't a group of strangers. They knew his face, his clothes, his voice. He hadn't wandered far. He couldn't have. When they still couldn't find him after hours of calling, they contacted park rangers. That moment, when the casual becomes serious, changed everything. Because what started as a short hike had turned into something else entirely.
Park rangers didn't waste time. Over the next few days, more than 60 people joined the search, including helicopters, tracking dogs, and expert crews. They mapped the entire area around Wapama Falls. Brush was checked, cliff edges examined. Dogs were brought in, trained to detect the faintest human scent. But they found nothing. Not a shoe, not a wrapper, not a single footprint. Even in dense wilderness, a person leaves clues. But here, it was as if George had never stepped on that trail at all.
Could he have fallen? There are cliffs near parts of the trail, but no sign of disturbed rocks, no torn clothing caught on a branch, no body in the water. Could he have left the group on purpose? There's no indication of that. He brought no gear, no supplies, just enough for a few hours outside. Could it have been foul play? That's always a possibility. But George was surrounded by his church group. No one heard a struggle. No one saw anything strange. The only thing everyone agrees on is that nothing makes sense. And that's the worst kind of mystery. The kind where there's nothing to hold on to.
Some people call these cases part of the no trace phenomenon. Disappearing from a public space, completely without explanation. Now let me say this. There's no confirmed evidence of the paranormal here. No glowing lights, no cryptic messages, but there are patterns. Yosemite, like other parks, holds a long list of stories just like George's. Someone walks ahead or lags behind, and that gap of seconds becomes final. Whether it's nature, accident, or something else, we don't know. And maybe that's the scariest part. Not knowing, not being able to say goodbye, not being able to say anything.
After days, the official search was called off. Posters stayed up for weeks. His family and friends held on to hope. But eventually, time grew quiet. George Penca's name was added to the list of the missing. But there's no memorial on that trail, no plaque, no final answer. Just the wind, and maybe, for someone walking alone near Wapala Falls, a strange feeling in your chest, like someone is missing, because someone is.
George didn't vanish into fog. He vanished into broad daylight. He didn't hike alone. He disappeared while surrounded by friends. No storm, no violence, just one moment when someone looked around and he was no longer there. If you ever visit Yosemite and you find yourself near that path, take a second, look around, feel the silence. Because sometimes the forest doesn't scream. Sometimes it just swallows. And if stories like this stay with you, if you're drawn to the mysteries no one can explain, you might want to subscribe, because this isn't the only one, and some of them are even stranger.